Hello, welcome to Crow's Corner. I'm Jenny. I don't know about you, but where I live right now, as I'm recording this, it is incredibly hot out, and I am not a summer person. I long for the cool fall temperatures, the colored leaves, the fog, sort of witchy weather. So, in honor of that, and sort of inspired by that and hoping for that, I'm making in this video a sort of witch's shelf, I guess you might call it. I kind of think of this as when you walk into a little woodland forest witch's cottage. This might be sort of in the entryway where she drops things like her cloak and her broom, and maybe she stores a few items. I got this little shelf off of Temu. You can see that and more on the Temu haul that I have. I like to sort of sand this a little bit at first because it was too shiny for me. And I obviously see here I made a little oops, broke that off, but it didn't matter. In the end, I think it looked just fine, and I kind of liked the little peekaboo through there. This is museum wax, and I'm using this to adhere everything to the shelf. I will provide links to all of this in the description. So if you're ever wondering where this is from, it might be in my Amazon list, it might be a separate link, but you can check in the description to find the items. Some of these were pre-made, some of them I kind of put together on my own, or combined pre-made items with things that I made. But I just wanted to have a little bit of fun and see what I could come up with. I did kind of interchange things around on the shelf, which is how the museum wax comes in really handy because you can remove things and move them around. I did accidentally use hot glue on one item, but that's all right. These little glass jars are adorable, and I had this little collection of tumbled sea glass that fit in it perfectly, and I thought it made a cute little like crystal collection jar. And in this basket, I'm just filling it with hot glue and moss. Very simple. These little pots with soil, actually made a bunch of these in my Hogwarts greenhouse series. So if you want to know more about how I make the soil or how these are pots were made, go check out that series, and it goes into it a little bit more into depth. And this one, I'm just, I'd already had the soil in it from the previous project, so I just added some moss and then these cute little flowers. So these little pumpkin looking things are actually just little seed pods that are dyed orange. I found this at a special like reuse craft supply shop that's local to me. So I can't tell you where to get them, but they kind of smelled cinnamony. I think they're kind of a potpourri mix. I'm sure you could find these in many places. I started by filling up this little basket I had with pumpkins, and I initially put this on the shelf, but decide later that it's a little too bulky and it's not really what I want there, so I end up using it in the Hogwarts greenhouse. I do use these pumpkins here. I just wanted to make a little stack of them, and I think they look cute on the shelf. So as I'm putting together stuff for the shelf, In my mind, I'm kind of imagining that this belongs to sort of a mixture between a forest witch, a garden witch, kitchen witch, maybe a hobbit, maybe a hermit. I'm not sure. Then maybe a little bit of an alchemist. There's a lot going on in this, but I think it all comes together and looks together in the end, and I was very, very happy with it. And more about the shelf itself, I love that sort of like Gothic arches and that sort of medieval church vibe that you get with the ornate details at the top of it. It is actually made of wood. I was surprised when I got it. I thought it would be plastic and it wasn't. It's actually made of wood. And it's really strong, well put together. And when I sanded it, nothing other than that little piece where I was pressing too hard, nothing broke, nothing chipped. It's well constructed. I was surprised. Wanted, of course, a couple of little stacks of books. You gotta have some literature, whether that's fiction, fantasy, or maybe botany books or spell books, potion books, whatever it might be. There's gotta be some books on a witch's shelf. I used a little bit of hot glue on the back of these books. I just didn't want them sort of flailing open on the shelf, so this held them together. You can't see it. This is a little crystal I had. I'm really bad with crystal names, so I'm not sure what it is, but it's beautiful. It's nice and soft and pink. It's a little shell. Maybe she's got a collection of items she finds when she takes walks through the woods, or along the coast, I guess you would say, for a shell. This is just a really dark rock. Kind of gave me funky vibes. This paper is something that I found in an art supply store, oh gosh, 20 odd years ago. And I have no idea what language this is, or even if it's a real language, but I've been hoarding it. And afraid to use it, and I don't know why, but here I am cutting into it and using little bits of whatever gibberish language this is to decorate these little jars. Maybe they're potion jars, collection jars, herbology jars. Whatever kind of jars they are, they definitely need labels. And I'm using my knife to rough up the edges. And my chalk pastels is what I've chosen to use to give these labels some color. Of course, I want them to look worn and aged, and maybe they have stuff on it that the potion bottles have spilled on them. Using a little bit of Aleene's tacky glue on the back of the label to adhere it to the jar. Filling one of the jars with some dried moss. And then using some chalk dust to fill one of the other jars. And of course, I spilled it everywhere, which is fine. I'm sure this little forest witch is just as messy as I am. So I'm going to make it look like it was done on purpose and just smear it all over the bottle. And for this jar, I'm putting some dried seed pods that I found outside into it. And every witch needs a broom. to get around. So I found some tiny little sticks and little twigs out in my yard and just decided to use those to make one. The objective was to put some glue on the end of this broom handle slash stick and then just roll it up on the twigs. It didn't work out like that. Yeah, if I can do something the hard way, I will every single time. Anyway, I put a few on there and then ended up having to go in and add some more piece by piece and eventually decided, hey, string is the way to go. So I used a little bit of string to sort of twine or twist around the tops of the brush bristles. What are they called? Bristles? And yeah, I just added a few more at a time doing that. I get there in the end. Trimming off the end to try to even this up just a little bit. Lining the bottom of the main, I guess, closet shelf area with some moss. This is where the broom is going to be stored, and also the cauldron and a cape. So stay tuned for that. And it fits just perfectly, barely. And making a few scrolls. I think one of the things I really enjoyed about making the shelf was deciding where to place objects and how to place objects and, moving things around to see what worked best. If you're new to my channel, welcome and thank you for joining me. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and if you already subscribe, maybe you could hit that like button and make a comment. I'd love to chat with everybody that makes a comment down below. Tell me what you're up to. Tell me what you've been making. And here's another one of those instances where if there's a hard way to do it, I will. So I wanted to make some little candles, and I thought, hey, I'll light some real candles and use the wax, which is great. But instead of like heating some wax up and then dipping the string in, I thought, why not just sort of pour the wax as it's melting with a flame over the string? And yeah, so don't worry, the flame wasn't that close to the string, even though it looks like it is in this shot. But there really is a better way to have done this. Anyway, it's done now, and I think it turned out all right. So, yeah. And then I also realized that I had done this on waxed paper. So, yeah, hot wax on waxed paper is going to stick, obviously. And I had trouble getting it off. But again, in the end, it turned out just fine. So, yeah. Anyway. I do think that playing with warm wax is really fun. I always have, even as a kid. Are you one of those people? Did you like just like sticking your finger in the candle wax and playing with it? Or am I just weird? And that's candle number 1 down. And funnily enough, I had to use some wax to adhere the wax to the shelf. And then I decided that every witch needs a familiar, and of course in this instance it's going to be a cat, a black cat, and so she's going to have a little picture of this cat that's on her shelf. I have a black cat personally. I have a ginger cat as well, but my little black cat Owen is 13 years old. Using a little bit of chalk pastel to give the paper some color. Initially I thought I would just kind of age it with this sort of rusty brown, but then decided I wanted it to look like it was sort of a midnight picture, like the cat's looking out at the stars, so I add in a little bit of blue. And of course it needs a frame, using some coffee stir sticks to make the frame. Using just a little bit of brown acrylic paint to paint the frame. I don't actually show this being put on the shelf, but you'll see it later. And right here, I'm actually taking a little loop of metal and then a string of clear glass beads on top of that. And I'm making a stand for a crystal ball. I have a little stone ball that I got that I thought looked perfectly like a crystal ball. See, there's the cat picture on the left. And this is where I decide that the basket just needs to go. It's just taking up too much space, and I have other things that I want to put on the shelf. So I also move one of the little pumpkins. And add in a little bit of moss to the top. And because this is Crow's Corner, I've got to add a little crow to the top. So this is the base to a tiny little glass cloche, and I'm going to put a little rose inside of it. So I start by putting a stem, and again there's links in the description for where I got these glass cloche. They are very tiny and beautifully made, and the rose is purple, and so I'm going to start with that and then add a little bit of moss in there. Little enchanted rose. See, isn't this so cute? I absolutely love it. And here's the cauldron, and I wanted to fill it with these little dried flowers, almost like maybe she had been taking a walk through the woods and just was like picking herbs and flowers for whatever tea or tisane she might be making. And I think it fits perfectly down in the little space where I broke the wooden part on the shelf there, and kind of glad I did because I like that you can see in there and see the pot very well. And the final thing I'm putting on here is a cloak. And I don't show you how I made the cloak, I'm sorry. But I could possibly show you how to make a real sized, live human sized cloak if you'd like, if you're interested in that. Be happy to do that. I love making costumes. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see in a future video. And there it is. Again, thank you so much for sticking around, for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I hope you enjoyed this. And here's to fall in the cooler weather.